Play the intro that one's on. Hello. Welcome to Stoppage Time. An unfortunate one that I was debating on even hopping on for. I really considered not to do this podcast today. My name is Caleb, generally the co-host of this podcast. The general main host, Sean, is out today due to some work things. So it's just me and sad Stevie. I can add to sad Caleb as well, but I'm not even going to ask you how you are, Stevie. We know how you're doing. We all know, as Latiele, how we're doing. But just want to give you just a chance to give me your thoughts on what we just witnessed in that roller coaster of emotions.
Yeah, I mean the performance was excellent. We
Mm,
did good to overturn uh, a 0-2.
mm,
The immediate reaction is to start chastising the manager, discussing, well, why did this person take a penalty? Why didn't this person take a penalty? Why did somebody who couldn't run take a penalty? But I think the bigger focus or discussion should be 3-0 going into the second period of overtime, playing
mm.
stock team from Norway in front of 55,000 rabid Romans. Why didn't we just close the match out and be done with it?
Yeah, I know. It's there's already a bit of spew and hate right now on the socials regarding the match, regarding certain players, regarding the coach. I'm also of the thinking is if you're gonna blame Baroni and the players, right, for that loss, you have to give him some credit as well for even being in a position to have that hope to be in a penalty shootout. I think if you started before the game, right, and we came in and said, "Hey, we're gonna take this a penalty shootout," I think most of us would have been pleased with that, right?
100. Yeah, without a doubt.
I don't know about you, but I mean, you and I, think pretty similar on this front. But understanding, like, just to be in the game for me would have been a win, right? Just getting outside of regulation time would have been a win for me. But the team were able to not just serve that, but also to get a lead, go into extra time, get that what we thought was maybe the winner. Instead, though, Lazio did what they did and had to make it a little more difficult for ourselves. But there has to be a lot of credit there for even getting to that position to begin with. It was a complete roller coaster of emotions. It was the highs of highs and the lows of lows. And what an experience that was, even though ultimately it was a negative one for us. But I want you to describe what we just witnessed and experienced in 3 words or less.
My 3 words were going to be for us misery loves company. But uh, I do have to say, this is what makes following the sport so beautiful. I'm a little older than you. So,
Mhm.
with age comes wisdom. And am I upset? Yes. But that feeling that you get when Northland bundled it home in injury added time. I did have my eyes closed during that penalty, and I heard the commentator say it. And then when Dia scored, I ran around the house so much,
Wait,
and
why were your eyes closed? You taking a little mid nap?
I was just it was incredible. I just couldn't believe. So pleased, so pleased, so pleased. And then we conceded, what, 5 minutes later? I mean, this is the best sport in the world. And is it very frustrating? Yes. Uh, but I mean, such is life. As I look at it, I now root for this small team from Norway to go on and win the whole tournament. Do I think they will? Probably not, because two of the three teams left are probably have a transfer market value of $1 billion. But uh, yeah, I mean, it was exciting. It was enjoyable. It was miserable. I mean, penalty shootouts. Lazio haven't had a very meaningful penalty shootout in, I think it was 2006, 2007. We beat Sampdoria in the cup final.
Yeah,
Since then, we've had a few in Coppa Italia and stuff, but
yeah,
nothing like this. And it was
yeah.
really not. I was comparing it. Watching penalties when your team's in it is like a drug.
Oh my goodness, it's Man, it really felt that way too. It really felt like this was. I think everyone could feel it. I know just from a distance, watching it from the TV, the stadium could feel it. It was packed today. A good friend of the show was actually there out there today at Estadio Olímpico, um, and he was sort of sharing things with us about the environment, just the atmosphere there. Just you could feel that this match had weight to it, and we haven't felt that way about a match in a long time. With that said, what are those three words?
I guess beyond misery.
Yeah, we're caught up in the emotion.
Uh, couldn't close out. How about that?
Yeah.
Because I think with experience, a team that's up 3-0, 3-2 in the tie can close the match out. But you look at the players he brought on, they're all jokers. They're all wild cards. Tavares, Chauna, Noslin. The players that came on got us, to extra time, delivered so that we scored the second goal. But those players probably are not the players you want on the field when you're trying to, keep your head and close out a match. Those are not the mentality or the type of players I think at this point in their career that maybe can do something like that.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. I think that's probably a good way to kind of describe the season as well. It just seems that this team has just come up short, and we look at the derby as well. Same thing, right? The Derby de la Capitale. We were there, dominated that match. That looked like it was going to be a win. Guess what? Just didn't close out. Crazy, bizarre, crazy goal. Regardless, it does seem to be a reoccurring theme this season. Now, do you think this is an identity of this side, or more so the growing pains of a team that has a new coach, a bunch of new players? What are your thoughts on that? Where that
Yeah,
stems from?
I would give us some more time. I mean, some people remember when Inzaghi was, first appointed, we weren't fighting for the championship. So, a couple years later, going into the COVID year when we were odds-on favorite to win the championship that year. A couple years into the project. So, before the year started, I'm sure I spoke to you or to Sean, and I don't think anybody had the highest expectations. The idea was, finish probably somewhere between fifth and eighth, which we probably will.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody for a very long time ever took this competition very seriously. So, I remember 10 or so, some odd years ago where, we were in the quarterfinals of this tournament and we
Mm-hmm.
had Closa on the bench,
Yeah,
Desma on the bench. Like, we just didn't
yeah.
take it. So,
Very different time. Very different time. But I think I think you made a good point. I'm just gonna say this. My three words are keep head up. Like I know on paper, compared to the days of old, losing out to someone like Bodo Glimt that didn't become really a relevant team to really recently. But big credit to them staying. Of course, big credit to our opponents who were brilliant at home. We were
oh, yeah.
terrible. They made it really difficult for us. So huge credit to them. No disrespect. Nothing but respect for that team. But I want the team to keep their head up. I want guys like Tati, Noslin to keep their head up, right? Like you said, our substitutes did come in and should have won us the game.
Yeah, I mean, our
But
came in, scored 2 goals.
yeah,
So to criticize
100%.
substitutions, I don't understand.
So I mean, we've talked about having no one off the bench, but in the biggest match of the season, our bench guys came up and got huge goals. Just let down on the defensive side. It was a goal from Hisai's side, actually. Funny
Yeah,
enough, but
shell shocked at that moment. I haven't watched a replay of it to see, who did what. Obviously, his side didn't win the header, but
yeah,
uh,
it seemed a little too easy for me. I understand we were still kind of pushing forward, but his side didn't even attempt to make a jump or a stab at that ball. That was my biggest problem with his side there. Of course, the ball had to be delivered there. It got to that point, but I do think that Hisai likely had to do better because even Romagnoli, who wasn't as close to him as was, made an attempt. He jumped up, stretching, trying to get it. His side did not make a jump, but we can go into that a little bit later. I do want to talk about individual performances this game. We talked about the substitutes. We talked about some critical performances. Who was your man of the match this game?
I was on the fence with this because I don't have one player maybe that stood out. I thought Gila played very well. So I would say Gila, but also Guendouzi because I don't have the statistics, but I joked on socials that he ran a marathon today. It's unbelievable. And then he stepped up and delivered our best penalty.
Yeah, no, those are all good shots. For me, I was in between. I think and I think this is harsh. If Tati had not, missed that penalty, maybe he would have been in contention. I don't even think he should have been on the field at that point to take a penalty, and that's not his fault particularly. So I don't want to be too harsh with him, but I thought that it's tough in a game like this to give it to a single person because it really felt like a team effort. No, like it really felt that the whole team bought in. Everyone was going hard in the 50-50 tackles. Everyone was on the same page, playing in sync. It really was a team effort. But for me, it was between three. It was Guendouzi, Romagnoli, and Gila. I thought Romagnoli was also huge in some of the tackles he put in. I mean, we lost the ball in some situations. He came up with some crazy tackles. But I'm gonna have to go. So give me your finalization. Who are you going with? Just give me one name.
I say Guendouzi.
Okay. I was gonna choose Guendouzi. I'm actually gonna go with Romagnoli because not only did he put in a defensive clinic, he also set up the game winner. It was off his head that he got up, got a little touch on the head, and Nelson was the one that got on the end of it. So Romagnoli got that game-winning assist, being a huge factor in the set pieces. He's a complete menace in the box. Let me ask you this: what do you think sort of shifted from this particular performance compared to the one in Bodo? Of course, it's away. What did you see in the team today that just was a night and day performance?
I mean, it's impossible to get in the minds of these players. I don't know them.
Oh, looks like we may have lost Stevie. While we wait a little bit on him, we do want to talk about Baroni. We're getting some comments here on the YouTube live that are discussing Baroni, but maybe we can touch on that later. You back here?
I have to tell you, I live in the deep south now. My wife is getting her doctorate at a university. Technology is not like it was in New York City.
It's all good. So go ahead. You were talking about you can't really get in the minds of players, but
do I think we looked arrogant when we went to Norway? No, it didn't appear as if the players were arrogant.
no.
Very cold, and do we have a lot of Southern Europeans, South Americans, players of African descent? Yes. So I do think playing, a bunch of Scandinavians, it's advantageous for them. The plastic pitch, I get that. But I mean, ultimately, I thought they played us off the pitch. I give them credit for what they did in Norway, just the same way I give us credit for fighting the way we did today, for fighting the way we did in the derby.
Yeah, 100%. Well, let's go ahead and talk about the Bidone of the match here. Who are you placing as a Bidone of the match? Who do you have as either the worst performer or maybe the most disappointing? What are your thoughts there, Stevie?
Can I give it to our right side? Because especially the combination of Lazzari and Chauna. I mean, the footballing brain there. Is there one total where there should be two? Is there
Oh man.
Lazzari and Chauna so many times with like the interception to start something and then no. I don't know. I hate to pile on Chauna just because he's so young. But
yeah.
To my son, I go, well, this guy's not going to make his penalty. I mean, you can just
No.
tell about.
No,
I didn't think.
I felt that way. Honestly, I felt that way with Noslin, Shauna, and even Tati. Even with Tati, I was like, "There's no way." I mean, this guy is barely he can barely get to the penalty box to begin with, coming from midfield. Yeah, shocking stuff. But I think my Madonna of the match.
It was very difficult.
You know, I'm gonna go. Yeah, Lazzari was not great today. He was probably the of the starting 11 the most disappointing. But I'm gonna go Hisai. Maybe that's a bit harsh, but he came in for Nuno, who got hurt again. Unfortunately, heartbreaking stuff. He's devastated by that. It looks like he's done for the season. I'll be shocked if Nuno comes back again this season before it ends. But I think his side, just the fact that he didn't even jump up and attempt to win that ball was just, it was poor. It was really poor. And you never know, even if you don't get the ball, just getting in the way of the vision of the other player, just disrupting them, give him a little shove midair. Like that's something that you have to do. You have to at least try. So I'm going to go with Asai. And I want to transition this also to talk about, is there a real case for Baroni being the Bidone? Because a lot of there's people in our comment section talking about Baroni out. There's people on Twitter talking about Baroni in this match. What are your thoughts on that, Stevie?
One last thing on his side. He's the captain of his national team.
Yeah,
so that
exactly.
National team always plays with a lot of grinta. So maybe he should have had the balls to step up and take a penalty today, instead of dimwit like Chauna.
So are you on the side of thinking that Baroni made those decisions to be that sort of order, or do you think he's the type of coach that says whoever's feeling confident, let me know?
Yeah, I mean, he's not Bielsa. He's a player's coach. You see the players love playing for him. I'm pretty confident the players, it was like it was like when you play, like it's the first 5 that raise your hands that are confident in doing it.
Yeah, no, 100%. So, it's tough for me to get mad about Baroni in this one because, and Patrick, who we like on this channel, but he definitely has some strong emotions about Baroni and being against him in this particular match. Baroni is also the same guy who where we scored 3 goals in the Europa League quarterfinal game, right? This is the same person.
I don't think Patrick is being knee jerk. I don't think he's supported Baroni for some time now. So I don't think it's just based on
no, exactly. That's why, he's had that opinion about Baroni for a while now. So this is not a one match reaction. But I do push back on that. Maybe there is a valid, that's why I wanted to ask you, Steve, is there a valid case to get on Baroni this match? I personally don't see it for this match. Can I see that case maybe for some other matches? Absolutely. But for this one particularly, just looking at an isolated game in this one, isolated moment, it's tough because I thought Baroni set us up really well. I mean, aside from the first 5 minutes of the match, we dominated. It's a miracle we didn't score 2 goals by the first half. It really is a miracle that we didn't put away 2 goals.
At the beginning, it seemed as if it was going to be like it was in the Arctic Circle. But once we settled into it, we were the only team that was going to score.
Yeah, I mean, it really felt inevitable. I don't know if you felt that way, but it seemed like, oh man, after when we got to a flow and a rhythm, it looked inevitable that, hey, if we keep this up, we're going to at least draw this match. And we did. A little later than we would have liked, a little more dramatic, but in classic Lazio fashion, we just have to make it as hard as possible on ourselves. But I don't blame Baroni for this one. Would I prefer Baroni to sort of make an executive decision and say, hey, let's Shauna, this is not the right position for you. Let's think about your career as well. Like, this could be devastating to maybe your career, Shauna, just the confidence level. But I do think that the goal that they scored to tie it was an individual error. I do think that had Marusic or someone else made an effort, if just Hisai had jumped and made an effort, Baroni, that's not on Baroni. Baroni can't make that jump. But Baroni can't contest that ball. Baroni can't stop that cross. We went nearly, let's see how many minutes we went. Let me check. We went 120 minutes 109 minutes without conceding a goal and really not having a good look from them, aside from that one that they missed, late at the half. But with that said, how are you feeling for the rest of the season?
I reserve my judgment on Baroni based on how we finish the season. So if we're completely shell shocked, and we go to Genoa on Monday, and the players are just going through the motions, you have to say that's on the manager.
Yeah, that's fair. But I've already seen some sort of discourse on Twitter through the fan base that this pretty much is the nail in the coffin for the season. It'll be difficult to see how the team bounces back from this. It's difficult to see how the team could, where injury. I mean, it almost seemed that, Zaccagni's housing some sort of groin injury. He's also, what I forgot the particular body part, but he's housing a little bit of an injury that's been nagging him. That's why his performances have sort of dipped. He's also Hatati, who has been beat up. Tavares is also beat up. It seems that this is sort of our last sort of hurrah, right? Let's just throw all our cards on the table and just put it all in on this, as we should have. How do you envision a successful rest of the season? What are your expectations at this point? Understanding these injuries, understanding we know how to long to balance. What are your expectations? What do you need to see to be able to remain confident in Baroni leading the squad?
So, at the moment we're in sixth, which is direct qualification for Europa again. Let's do it again next
Yeah.
year, baby. But what I'll say is, yeah, if we finish in the top six, I'll consider the season successful, because it won't be easy, because we're fighting against Bologna and Fiorentina, Atalanta, Juventus. So, we're fighting against some very, very good sides. So if we finish in the top six, I'll be happy, and I'd be willing to say, yeah, let's give him another chance. The players, a lot of these players also need a second season. I mean, we saw Isaacson last year. He was a shadow of himself versus the Isaacson we see this year,
Yep,
right?
exactly. Yep.
So it's very difficult. And a lot of players have come to Lazio and do that. The scrutiny of playing in Rome, playing for your first big team, so to speak. So, I'll be interested to see how it is in the summer. Obviously, we want to strengthen, sort of incorporate some of the players that are on the fringes. So, more of, Bellion, less of Guendouzi and
Yeah.
Rovella for every match. See what type of replacements we make. You have to assume that Vecino will leave. His contract is expired. Uh, yeah, I mean, I actually, just from supporting Lazio for years, I kind of love the end of the season, because a lot of times the players can just play with freedom, and at the end of the day, this
Yeah.
is entertainment. Like, if I'm not entertained, you know, I mean, I couldn't fathom supporting a team like Roma that just plays shit football and grinds out nothing results. That's boring, At least this Lazio has really put on a show this season. I think we're the third top scorer in the league. Do we concede a
I
whole
think
lot?
I
Yes.
think the
But
question here, I think for me it comes down to it's very clear about Oni, despite his age, is still very much a coach who is learning at this stage. And my pushback to yes, Baroni's made his mistakes. I will admit that Baroni has made his mistakes. It's clear that some of the management of the squad has been a bit poor the second half of the season. I thought he did a really good job in the first half of the season, actually, of rotating for Europa. But of course, the quality was worse of the teams that were playing at that point, so we could afford to do that. But some of the squad management has been a little bit weird in the second half of the season. Defensive woes. The second half has been a different story to Baroni's tenure. But the question becomes, I think the main question is, do we believe Baroni has a next gear to him? Do we believe he's a coach that can actually continue to learn and develop despite his age? That's the question. Do you feel that way about Baroni? Do you feel Baroni is going to be kind of the Baroni we've seen this season throughout? Or do you think he has sort of still this developing path that he's going through and can become an even better coach, with a second season?
I remember when we were on the verge of getting rid of Pioli, and people would think the same thing. He's not the type of manager that could, elevate the team. Some people said the same thing with Inzaghi when he was promoted from Primavera. Yeah, no, I think do I know the answer? No, but do I want to give him a chance? Absolutely. I absolutely want to give him a second
Yeah,
season.
it's difficult. Like I know, I'm very on the edge because there's on one section is I think he exceeded expectations of most people that I thought, and my question becomes too is, okay, guys, we're competing for Europa League here. We're also we were in top four for in contention for quite a bit. Technically, there's still a chance there. What other coach is going is it would have made the difference to really switch this? I mean, who? What other coach out there available is going to get this team to the next level, right? I mean, these are all questions that come when firing a coach. Is cool, you want him out, but who's the next option there that can get us that next level, right? I mean,
In the summer, I would have given, my left arm for Conceição, who was out of contract, because he has
yeah,
Lazio in
yeah,
his
for
heart.
sure.
But look how things are going for him in northern Italy at the moment. So you really never know. Like in that moment, there are no
Yeah, no,
guarantees.
it's difficult. Like, again, we could bring in a new coach, and guess what? Maybe our roster quality and our depth gets exposed. Maybe that person can't get this team to punch above their weight. Because I mean, if you look at our team, I would argue we're not as good as quality wise. We're not as good as a Milan. We're still behind some of these other teams. Individually,
Individually,
we're
no.
not like, yes, we should be. I think we are good enough to contest for a fourth place spot, but we're not guaranteed that just on roster quality. So what's to say another coach comes in and can't get more of this team to punch above their weight, right? We don't know this. So these are all questions to ponder, but we still do have an entire month of the season left to go. We have plenty of matches to play still. I hope that the team continues fighting and giving us something to support and not just lay over and kind of just fall dead and kind of wrap it up after this. I hope that we still see some life in this team to finish strong, and we can make a better sound judgment on Baroni come the end of the season. But my kind of thought process, knowing Lotito, I'd be shocked. I mean, things would have to be completely disastrous from here to the end for Baroni to leave. But
Yeah.
thank you, Stevie. Any last thoughts on this match, the rest of the season, before we head out here?
To all my followers of Christ,
Yes,
Happy
happy Easter.
Easter.
Happy Easter, everyone who celebrates. I will be at the beach this weekend for that. I'm actually driving down tonight, right after this. I'm sacrificing my sleep to be on the show with you, Stevie, and everyone else on here. Thank you guys for hopping on. And whether we're losing, winning, or a heart crushing defeat like today, we will always be here. Sempre, Forza, Lazio.